صهو المنون خذوا مني فؤادي وامنحوني سلاحي أمتطي صهو المنون خذوا مني فؤادي وامنحوني سلاحي أمتطي صهو المنون فإني لم أعش لأذوق ذلا ولا لأذوب في فضل حنون فإني لم أعش لأذوق ذلا ولا لأذوب في فضل حنون.
So we ask this question. It is posed not only to those of you here in Puchum, but we are posing this question to the distinguished and respected scholars of Islam, our brothers, who we respect, the ulama, and in particular the ulama of the Arab world, men of such fame and distinction as Dr. Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Here is the question. The strangest event ever to have occurred in the religious history of mankind is the return of the Jews to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own 2,000 years after Allah had expelled them from the Holy Land and broke them up into bits and scattered them all over the world. وَقَطَعَنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمٍ, and placed a ban on them that they could never return. Tabule, could never return. وَحَرَامٌ عَلَى قَرْيَةٍ أَهْلَكْنَاهُمْ أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ, could never return. Until when? حتى إذا فتحت يأجوج ومأجوج وهم من كل حدب ينصرون. I'm not going to translate that. We ask the question, what is it in the Quran which explains this phenomenon, this unique event in history? Tell us what is the explanation. Since Allah says that this Quran explains all things, can someone kindly bring for me a copy of Jerusalem in the Quran from the back? We wrote a book 10 years ago entitled Jerusalem in the Quran. Don't tell me you've not seen it, because it is on my website. It has been translated to Arabic, it has been translated to French, to Spanish, to Bahasa. We even have the Bahasa book here tonight. It has been translated to Urdu, to Bengali, to Bosnian, several languages. And large numbers of people have read that book. Let us raise it so the camera can get it, so they can see all over the world. We gave an explanation. What is yours? Among the strangest of things which have occurred in the religious history of mankind is the restoration of a state of Israel in the Holy Land 2,000 years after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had destroyed Israel. We ask, what is it in the Quran which explains this event? Since Allah says that the Quran explains all things, we ask you tonight from Puchung, what is that explanation? Among the strangest things that is occurring in the world today is that state of Israel is about to replace the United States of America as the ruling state in the world. The only ones who are not conscious of that are those who eat the roti canai and drink the tea tarik and go home and sleep. The rest of us are conscious of the fact that the Zionist movement which created Israel, the Zionist movement controls Barack Hussein Obama, controls the American Congress, controls governments around the world, including governments in the Muslim world, controls armed forces. You think the Pakistan armed force is free? Armed forces are free? We ask, what is it in the Quran and in he who was sent to teach the Quran, Nabi Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam? What is it that explains this amazing phenomenon of that Israel about to rule the world? Since Allah says that this Quran explains all things, we ask you today. We've been asking for 10 years now, and time is up for you. We demand an explanation from the world of Islamic scholarship tonight. We have an explanation, and this is our explanation. That Nabi Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam told us about Dajjal. And he told us that he is known as Al-Masih al-Dajjal. And you know that. Meaning that he will impersonate Al-Masih. He is not Al-Masih. Al-Masih, or the Messiah, is the son of Maryam alayhi salam, Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And when they boasted of how they killed him, وَقَوْلِهِمْ إِنَّا قتلنا المسيح عيسى ابن مريم رسول الله. What sarcasm in their language. When they boasted of how they killed him, they never knew, and no one knew for 600 years. It was a secret. Until Allah sent down this Quran to explain all things, that no, they did not succeed in killing him. No, they did not succeed in crucifying him. وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. Allah made it appear like that. بَلْ رَفَعَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. Allah raised him unto himself. And among the signs of the آخِرُ الزمان, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ وَإِنَّهُ لَعَلَمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. Both are correct. That he, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, will come back. And his return is the sign of all signs of آخِرُ الزمان, the last stage. And Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said that when he comes back, he will come back as Hakim, the one who rules. What kind of a rule? Not a rule in which he has to submit to the Security Council of the United Nations. Huh? No, not at all. When Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns, he is going to rule over the Security Council of the United Nations. His rule will be the supreme rule in the world. And he will rule the world from Jerusalem. But they didn't know that. They thought he was dead. And they know that Allah had made a promise to them that he would send a prophet who would be known as Al-Masih, the Messiah, and that he would rule the world from Jerusalem, like Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam, from the throne of Nabi Dawood alayhi salam, and therefore from holy Israel. And so they knew that when the Messiah comes, the golden age will come back. And they said, we will rule the world one more time. And all the Jews are waiting for that. But Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam told us, and the ulama of Islam know this, that Allah had created a being and programmed that being to impersonate the Messiah. And that is why he is known as Al-Masih al-Dajjal. And his method of operation is deception. That's why he's known as Dajjal. He has a PhD in deception. Now then, let us now use some reason and some logic. That's all I ask. If Dajjal is to rule the world from Jerusalem, because that's what he has to do to impersonate the Messiah, then, among other things, this is what he has to do. Number one, he has to liberate the Holy Land for the Jews, because it is under Muslim rule. I say to you, he's already done that. I say to you, this is the explanation of what happened in November 1917, when a British army defeated the Ottoman Islamic Army and took control of Jerusalem and the Holy Land. Number two, he will have to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own. And I say to you, he's already done that. This is my explanation. That between 1917 and 1948, the Jews returned to the Holy Land and eventually reclaimed it as their own. Number three, he will have to restore a state of Israel in the Holy Land. It will not be Holy Israel, it would be an impostor. And get the Jews to believe that this is Holy Israel. He's already done that. I say to you, this is my explanation of the restoration of a state of Israel in the Holy Land 2,000 years after Allah had destroyed it, and 2,000 years after Allah had expelled the Jews from the Holy Land and banned their return. Number four, he will have to cause that state of Israel to become the ruling state in the world. And I say to you that he's about to complete that mission. the Arab uprisings from my analysis, while I applaud those who rise up against oppression. And there is oppression everywhere in the world today. Every town and every city. If you pay an Indonesian maid who sleeps last at night and wakes first in the morning, who is a young woman, probably unmarried, who has no male around her to protect her, and who works like a dog, and at the end of the month she's paid the wage of a dog, because no Singaporean woman would work for $300 a month, then you are an oppressor. It matters not whether she's a maid in Singapore, serving those whose mouths are reeking with hatred for Islam, or whether she's a maid in Saudi Arabia, swimming in oil, and yet oppressing her. It is oppression. There is oppression everywhere in the world today. If you employ as a contractor in the construction industry a Bangladeshi, or a South Indian, or an Indonesian, and you pay him the wage of a dog, let me tell you what Allah will do with you. Because governments may tolerate oppression, but Allah has zero tolerance for oppression. Zero tolerance for oppression. And this religion of Islam has come to the world to eliminate oppression, to stand up against oppression. So let me tell you what Allah says in the Quran. And it's around the corner. وَإِن مِّن قَرْيَةٍ إِلَّا نَحْنُ مُهْلِكُوهَا قَبْلَ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ أَوْ مُعَذِّبُوهَا عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا كَانَ ذَلِكَ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَسْطُورًا. Every town and every city will be destroyed. Not one will escape. And those that escape destruction will be punished with terrible punishment. The state of Israel is today the greatest oppressor of all in the world. We ask you, and it is our right to ask you, for you are scholars of Islam, you are the ulama. What is the explanation in the Quran for these phenomena? We say this is our explanation, that this is the work of Dajjal, and he is close to the end of his mission. Children at school should live to see a man who rules over Israel tomorrow. Because Israel is going to wage big wars and take over from the United States. And when Israel wages those big wars and takes over from the United States, and the US dollar collapses and the US economy collapses, and you know there's no more gold in Fort Knox, where did the gold go? Oh, why don't you ask Israel? Then a man will stand up in Jerusalem to declare, I am the Messiah. That man is Dajjal. But before the big wars can be waged, Israel does not want to wage big wars and appear as an aggressor. No. Israel wants to wage her big wars and make it appear to the world we're only defending ourselves. And so the Arab uprisings take place, and we commend them for standing up against oppression. But why was the Egyptian armed forces so suspiciously docile? And now, when elections take place in Egypt, we can predict that the Islamic movement is going to win with a landslide majority, because that's what they want. Why would Israel be smiling when an Islamic government comes to Egypt, and then the domino effect takes place in Tunisia, and in Yemen, and Syria, and Jordan? Why? Why? The answer is because the Islamic governments in the Arab world will have to support, besiege Gaza, break the siege of Gaza, support the Palestinian Arabs, and then Israel will cry out, and CNN will cry out, and Al Jazeera, which is CNN's sister, will cry out. Terrorism! Islam is rising! Islam poses a threat to Israel, and Islam is a menace to the world. And so it should not be long again before these events occur, and Israel takes over the world. But we, our people, cannot wait on you, the scholars of Islam, the ulama. We can't wait on you anymore. You must give us the explanation from the Qur'an, so that our people will not remain in a state of confusion and be taken for a ride by pseudo-scholars who sing for their supper. Of course, the supper is paid with US dollars. What is that explanation? We have given the explanation in this book.